Special guest. And the Christmas tree, Christmas stars, the rainbow star, the free waters, surround the stream, and the rockets spring, the sea, and the brightest pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Tom? Invitation.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we pray today that you still our hearts with the kind of spirit of community that exists in this club, where service is most important. It's learn to be servants and live as we should, and care for others as we should. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Terry Duffy, Family Rotary.
Good morning. I hope everybody's Monday's off to a fantastic start. Before we celebrate some birthdays and anniversaries, let me share this with you. I know many of you know he was not a Rotarian, but many of y'all know the attorney here in town, Bruce Adams. Bruce passed at the end of the week. Fought a very diligent battle with cancer, and our fellow Rotarian John Gore will be chaplain and conducting his funeral. Bruce and I became very, very close friends when we were doing a lot of music festivals here in town. Wiregrass Blues, and raised a lot of money that we bought bandits for children and things of that nature. So please remember his family and everything. But on a happy note, let's celebrate some birthdays. Counselor, attorney, judge, all the many titles. Tom Sorrell, August the 2nd. Wes Grant, August 3rd. Dr. Dennis Coe, August the 4th. And the big anniversary for Darrell Roberts and Jacqueline on July 29th. Hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you.
Ms. Stephanie Crow.
We're happy to welcome our guests and visiting Rotarians today. When I call your name, would you please stand and remain standing until all guests are recognized? Shirley Collier, guest of Jack Collier. Anybody that we missed? Thank you for visiting.
Ms. Brandon, our can ask the points. $999 8010. Oh, Oh, of course he did. Oh, diamonds are good on this rim, but I'm not sure it's that. 3 of diamonds. Let's give me a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a follow-up to last week. This is Bama Day. There's more information on this handout that's on your table. There's also some on the back, considering a corporate sponsorship. Somebody in the club was asking me about getting him and his son a ticket. He said, "Get me 4 tickets." And I said, "Well, why don't you just get with your father-in-law and y'all just get a table? Because then you get 4 tickets, 8 admitted to the event, and you get 1 ticket that's guaranteed in the final drawing for the grand prize." So if you're in a situation like that, you might want to team up with somebody and you kind of increase your odds. But it is on August 20th. All the money stays right here in Houston, Henry County. And as you can see, this is the 42nd Bama Day. It's been going on a long time and helping out a lot of children. So there's instructions on how to get your tickets, or I can do them for you. Thank you very much. Since today was flyer day and we wanted to have lots of flyers on your table, there's 2 different ones from United Way. The first, this Thursday morning in this room is our Paysetter kickoff. Charles Buttons, our Board of Trustees chair, will be speaking here at that event. We have a short program. We'll announce our goal for this year. We'll watch our new campaign video produced locally by Josh Shelton Fold Marketing Services. Hear a challenge from the Wiregrass Foundation, which we're always excited about. And then the fun part for the Wiregrass Area Food Bank, we will package meals to feed 50,000 people, and we'll do it in less than an hour. I think it's our 8th year to do that. There's a number of Rotarians who are in the room right now who will be serving as table captains that morning. We've got 22 workstations, so we need a lot of people. So you're invited to come help. It'll be over by 10 o'clock. That's this flyer, sponsored by Alabama Power. They pay 100% of the cost for all the food. And then that day, everybody's going to eat lunch and or dinner. You're like me, you're going to eat both. You go to Red Elephant, eat in, or get a curbside pickup. A portion of all the sales that day are going to be United Way. I want to promote both of those. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Chris Dixon for our program.
Welcome, everybody. You'll have to apologize up front. We had 2 speakers are going to speak on this topic. I'll have one of them. The other one's going to introduce himself here in just a few minutes. But Shaun, the one on your right, is a rescue diver and board member with the Houston County Rescue Unit, where he's been a member since 2020. Shaun was born and raised right here in Wiregrass. After high school, he joined the Air Force, where he served 8 years active duty. During that time, he completed 5 tours in Afghanistan and both Iraq in the intelligence sector. I was told he was also the master of building sandcastles during that time. After that, he spent 2 years performing contract work for different government agencies. After that, Shaun felt it was time to return to his home area of the Wiregrass to help raise his family. Shaun and I spent several years together at Southeast Health, and both have moved on to work at construction partners. So here is one of 2 speakers, Shaun Simon.
Thank y'all. First, thank y'all for having us. Thank you for providing lunch. I want to introduce Chris Ball, who is the unit president, and let you do a little background about yourself and kick us off.
All right. My story is definitely not as cool as Shaun's. I just happen to be a scuba diver. I've been diving since 1992, and that naturally progressed into body recovery, water rescue type events. And so I moved to Alabama, Houston County in 2016, joined the rescue unit in 2019, and became the board president in 2021. Am I starting? Yeah. All right, so a little bit about Houston County Rescue Unit. Long before I was around, it was formed in 1963. I believe the story goes that there was a tornado that blew through the town of Webb, and it blew somebody into a pond. I don't know anything about that person, but there was a person missing from a tornado in the pond. At the time, there was no agency that had any type of water rescue or water search ability. And so a small group of volunteers said, hey, let's get our scuba gear and go search this pond. And they found the victim. And so seeing that there was a need for a water rescue, water recovery type agency, they created the Houston County Rescue. It is named Houston County Rescue Unit, but it's not ran by the county. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. It is 100% volunteer. Nobody in the unit is paid. And we are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our mission statement: to protect life, property, and environment through training, education, and preparation. The services that we generally provide have to do with location and recovery of any person or some property. People accidentally drag their boats into the water when they're launching, or fishing boats, or whatever. So we're going to get that too. We do some land search stuff. We are swiftwater trained. We've had a couple of swiftwater incidents, not necessarily in Houston County, but in Henry County we've had a couple, and in Barber County. Pretty much what we're known for is our diving, but we do some other things. And then, of course, public education. We try to push life jacket use a lot. If everybody would wear a life jacket when they go water, we would be out of business. There would be no need for us to do that. So we do a lot of education when it comes to life jackets. Since the unit's been around, I believe these numbers are actually not correct. I believe they're probably much higher than this. Over 1,500 call outs. And a call out for us is different than normal EMS response. A call out for us, instead of showing up on scene, assessing a patient, and transporting to the hospital, our call outs, our time on scene can be days or weeks. We've had several searches that we've been on that we have made multiple deployments to, where we would be there for 4 or 5 days at a time, not locate anything, return back home, and then schedule a return trip to that same body of water, looking for the same victim, where we've done multiple trips, where we've been on scene for 25, 30 days before we either were successful in locating the person, or there was nothing else we could do to continue the search. Over 300 recoveries, that's body recoveries. So over 300 victims have been located underwater and recovered. Plus, I don't know how many vehicles. We probably do a lot more than you would think. Probably, 10 a year at least, where people just go to launch their boat and they don't quite get it in park. And it ends up in the water. Some of those probably have to do with insurance. They don't want to make a payment on that specific truck anymore, I'm sure. But whatever the case is, we have to pull a lot of vehicles out of the jet each year. We have done some recoveries in really, really deep water. So, is there any scuba divers in here? Recreational scuba divers. So, recreational scuba diving, depth limit for recreational scuba divers is 130 feet. We have done a recovery in the Gulf of Mexico. I did the recovery myself. We were in 225 feet of water. So, a lot different than the average recreational dive. And I've actually done one in 308 feet of water out west in Lake Mead. This is a recent recovery that was just done up in Eufaula. There was a There was 2 women and a child that were reported missing, I believe on June 1st. It was June 1st. And on June 9th, I believe, it was the 9th. Shaun knows more about this. I believe on June 9th, a fisherman saw that left image. It's from a sonar from a fishing boat, and it looked like a vehicle. And so he called the sheriff and said, "Hey, this looks like a vehicle in the water up here in Eufaula. You guys might want to check it out." And so we were dispatched up to Eufaula. We got up there. Of course, it was late at night. It was dark. The water visibility there, it's like 0. So when you're underwater, everything is kind of like brown. It's all that fill. Shaun and another one of our members located the vehicle. And when they pulled the vehicle out, there was 2 victims inside. Third one is still missing. Anything else to say about this one?
No, yeah, going a little bit on Chris, what he said, 0 visibility is the big deal, and what I think makes our unit and our training really different than recreational scuba diving. So, and Chris is a phenomenal instructor. Sell himself short on the stuff that he's done. But specifically on this recovery, we're swimming down to look at that car. You're swimming like Superman with your fist out. Otherwise, you're going to look at that car with your face. And then, if you can imagine, just closing your eyes and being underwater, not knowing the orientation of the car, and then trying to find the wheel, trying to hook up to it to take a big tow strap down there, pull it out. And then verifying victims are in the vehicle and relaying that to the local PD detectives there. And obviously, this one particularly, we've had a few others where there's a child involved, makes it a lot harder. I'm sure many of you have children, and when you're going around babies, they're always innocent, so that makes it a lot harder. But luckily, we're able to recover this one and still do not know where that third victim is. So y'all probably saw this in the news, actually, this boat ran behind the baseball fields in Eufaula. So that was that. And then actually more recent recovery, which you also probably saw in the news, like Eufaula, was this individual, Chris and I again, on this operation, got a call that this gentleman here in the middle is missing, and they found a suicide note. And we got on scene at the house, came down the hill, we found his wheelchair, a paraplegic, and it had weights tied around it. Still didn't have all the story. We could see where it looked like he had drug himself down the dock. So Chris and I started that shore search. From there, we see on that left picture and searched all the way down to the dock. I'm very confident that we would find him there. After about a 20, 30-minute search, clearing the area, we were very confident that he was not there. At that time, we learned from the detective about his suicide notes. He was going to go kill himself, and that he don't come looking for me, I will not be found, you won't find me. And then we found that a raft had been missing. They found that down by the dam. So this is in Holiday Shores, if you're familiar with Lake Eufaula. And his raft was not all the way down by the dam. At that point, we pulled out, and Chris will show you a sonar unit later. But we started doing sonar searches. And our sonar isn't pole mounted down imaging or side imaging. It's a very specialized piece of equipment we've been trained on. It costs about $55,000 for this to fish sonar to where we're able to see holes in bricks, right? So we're really looking for these victims in bodies of water where most units cannot find them. The next day, we deployed our second unit out at that time to do more searching. And at that time, he did float. He found the firearm, and he had weighted himself down, trying to stay hidden. But Lake Eufaula is a very busy lake, a lot of recreational fishing, a lot of people out there boating and having a good time, very warm water. So the last thing we wanted is, a victim washing up on shore next to somebody's lake down, my son or daughter time. So one more, Chris talked about, we have profile recovery while that.
So this particular case happened back in 2019. It was July 4th. It was a boating accident with some alcohol involved. It was late at night, and so they didn't have a very good last known location where this accident happened. It's not like on the street where there's a car wreck, you can see exactly where it happened. Out on the water, you know, if you're standing at the shore and you say, well, it happened out there, that can mean a lot of things. And so without having good information, sometimes these searches take a long time. This particular search took 93 days to locate and recover this victim. The image on the left there is a sonar image, and that is showing you that there are standing trees on the bottom of the lake, so it's not just flat and smooth. And to give you some reference, that is about 225 feet of water, and those trees are 80 to 90 feet tall. So it's literally like searching through a forest. There were 23 search and rescue organizations, all the way from state, Marine Patrol Division, all the way down to volunteers from all over the country that came out to look for this woman. She was a kindergarten teacher at Birmingham, and this particular case got a lot of press for whatever reason. And so it took our unit 4 deployments. And so we would go up there for 3-4 days at a time, and then come back home, you know, figure out who could go when and for how long, and then, you know, the volunteers would go up and we made a second run at it, and then a third run, and then finally a fourth run, where we were successful in locating her body in about 150 feet of water. And again, I believe it was 93 days from that 4th of July weekend crash to the day that we did the recovery. And that was a really high profile case. It got, you know, national news coverage. So it was good to be involved in that.
So we talked about a few of the recoveries we've done before we go to partner agencies. You know, we work with really anybody. We take call outs from you know, EMA, work close with them, anybody that needs our help. You know, we're open to help. We don't only serve Houston County. We kind of, like I said, 250-mile radius, but as Chris said, we've been, specifically him, we've been called out to the Gulf of Mexico to dive on a spearfish in the, you know, fell in 225 foot of water. Anywhere we call, we try to help out. But obviously Dothan's our home, and you know, this is where we're seated. But as you guys know, even better than us, a lot of the smaller counties are less equipped. So we try to support what we can. Also, kind of walk through a recovery. You know, we're always trying to locate that victim on sonar first, so to get a better understanding where they're at and what kind of environment we're dealing with. So we're not just diving in dark water, aimlessly searching around. And I think that our tactics and how much we train really helps with our success. Some of the challenges, as every 501c3 has, is money. Here's the sonar unit that we use. It's called a Towfish by Marine Sonic, and you can see the victim on the right. So this is a side scan sonar. It's like a torpedo with a long cable that we hold off the back and lower it down to within a couple feet of the bottom, and then patrol and search out 20-30 feet typically to locate victims. We can also use it to locate evidence if we needed to. You know, we have a $20,000 operating budget that graciously given to us by the county. Almost half of that goes straight to insurance, and you can look at the numbers of kind of what stuff has cost us. We purchased that sonar actually this year, and you know, have a loan out on it where you fix our boat. Give you an example of the diver, the gear that we dive costs about $10,000 for each diver with the water, and the unit doesn't pay for that. That's all the diver's personal gear. We just don't have those kind of funds. So anytime one of our guys get in the water, you're looking at $3,000-4,000 for a dry suit, count their tank, their BC, their regs, $1,000 dive, food, computer, $900 full face mask, $1,000 comms. That's it quick, right? Thankfully, we got insurance on this stuff, so but a diver does experience the loss of their personal gear, we cover that. But I think it just is a testament to the folks that volunteer for this unit, what it means to them. So how you can contact us or find more information about us, obviously our website, HoustonCountyRescue.org. You can always email us. That goes to works if you ever have any questions. Obviously, if you need us, you can call 911 or EMA. We'll dispatch us out, and then you can also find us on Facebook at Houston County Rescue. So those three recoveries we done, you can also find them. So with that, I want to open up the questions. We'd like to hear what questions y'all have or anything that we can help explain on what we do. Yes.
So when you get called out like to search and rescue, does anybody pay you for that?
No, sir. We will volunteer. Every now and then, a victim's family will send us a check for $200. We've even discussed this as any way to generate revenue. We'll go get a vehicle, for example. That tow truck is getting paid by somebody, but that tow truck is just sitting there waiting for us to take his cable out there, hook it up, pulls it up, puts it on the truck, takes it back, and charges $300, $400, $500. No, sir, we don't get any of that. Yes, sir.
You encounter alligators in water.
Funny story. Yes, sir, we do. At recovery of the woman and child, there were 3 gators visible on the surface, and they know that area. So many calls. Hey, there's 3 gators, one big one. Where she's at. They got these 2 8-footers right here. So we're going to keep an eye. They had a deputy with a rifle with a spotlight while me and my partner was in the park. And I said, look, if you see the light come up, don't shoot the light. I shoot a lot of them, trust you guys. And, then we hook up to the car for you guys that are in EMA. Hey, we're pulling out the car and everybody's focused. Hey, who's got the rifle? Because I'm still in the water. Like, you still have a job. It's that alligator. Like, I got you. So, yes, we experience alligators. Not really worried about them, but there are stories of there's one out of Carolina. It's about a month ago. He surfaced an area he dove many times. An alligator came and actually attacked him. He was up and down the bottom in 50 foot of water, and he ran out of air. But right before he did, he tried to rip his arm off of his body to get away from the gator. So they will attack. Yes, sir.
You just a certain things on the 225 foot recovery. That's not the legal limitation.
Yeah, so that recovery was a spear fisherman that was spearfishing on an oil rig. Anytime there's a structure in the ocean, that's where a lot of sea life would like to make their home. And so it's a very popular place for people to do spearfishing activities. This particular guy was not a certified diver. His brother and his friends were all divers. And so they gave him some gear and he went down and was really successful doing some spearfishing stuff for probably 7 or 8 months. And then he went out there and he ended up running out of air, fighting with the fish. And so he was deeper than he should have been. He was overweighted. So when we did locate and recover him, he had way more weight on him than any diver should have, probably because of lack of training. And so he ended up fighting the fish. And, when you're concentrating on fighting that fish and trying to get it to stop fighting you to get it on your stringer, he must have lost track of time and he completely used all the gas that was in it. And so he tried to make it to the surface. And he had another person with him. He tried to make it to the surface and he made it to about 50 feet surfacing. He breathed in water and drowned.
How far was it from the site?
He was only about 100 feet from the actual oil rig structure where it touched the bottom. We were able to go out and lower the sonar unit and locate him before we got water. We tried, because of the depth of the water, we tried to use a remotely operated vehicle. But that day there was a lot of current. And the ROV that we had didn't have enough thrust to fight the current and be able to maintain its position. We would have rather sent that down there and it claw on it, got him, and brought him to the surface. But like I said, the current was too bad that day, so the other option is put somebody in the water. So so that guy was underwater for 3 days. The day after, well, so that right when the incident happened, his own brother grabbed some scuba gear and tried to do the recovery. So he went down. He actually made it to the bottom, 225 feet. where he ran out of gas himself. And he had to, what we call blow and go. You have to exhale the entire time you're ascending. And so he made it all the way back to the surface doing that, and he grabbed another tank, and he tried to go back down again. This time he ran out of gas before he even got to the bottom. He made another emergency ascent, and the Coast Guard had to come out with a helicopter and fly him to a hospital where he had to be put into a recompression chamber for suffering from decompression sickness. And then the following day, I don't want to call him. He was like the leader of their little group that gets together to go spearfishing. He went down, and he actually located the missing person. And he tied a rope to him, and he was trying to bring him up, and then he had some type of medical event and ran out of gas and made it to the surface barely. Again, the Coast Guard had to send another helicopter out, take him. He spent about 2 or 3 weeks in the hospital recovering and being put into a recompression chamber to get treatment for decompression sickness. And then that's when they said, all right, we're not just going to let anybody go down there and try this again. Because we've had 2 people try it. It's ended up in an emergency situation. So the next person that is going to attempt this, like, we want to vet and we want to make sure that they can pull this type of job off. And so that's how we ended up getting a call. And we met with the Coast Guard and said, look, these are our credentials. This is what we've done before. You know, this is not really that big of a deal for us, especially when we're not just down there looking for the guy. We know where he is. We can pull this off. And we're fairly confident it'll be no big deal. And so they said, okay, give it a shot. And then we went out there and pulled it off. So
Pretty lots of sharks.
a lot of sharks. Right?
Big shark.
Yeah, really close.
When you do a deep dive like that, you different gas mixture or air mixtures or?
Yeah, so this could turn into a really long conversation. So I'm gonna try to keep it. I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as I can. Basically, when you start breathing nitrogen under pressure, it becomes narcotic, and so it gives you a narcotic-like effect to where you can kind of be really happy, or you can be really scared, or you can have lots of problems. So to eliminate that from happening, we have to take some of the nitrogen out, and we have to replace it with a smaller molecule. We choose helium to do that, and that takes away that narcotic effect, and so that we're able to have a clear mind while we're down at those depths trying to do the stuff that we do. The only bad part about it is we sound like Mickey Mouse when we're talking on a comms. Hey, Tiger One topside, I found the target. And so when they play it back, it's kind of embarrassing, but that's what we have to do.
How many volunteers do we have here in Dothan?
So, you know, volunteering is a strange thing, and it's becoming harder and harder to get people to volunteer. I think right now we have 17 or 18 members. We've had as many as 30, and we've had as few as 9 since I can't answer that from prior to 2019, but you know, it varies every year.
When you go on a deep dive like that and you change the mixture, do you then have to go through decompression, or does that avoid it?
Yeah, we still have a decompression obligation. So, and what that means is that when we descend to whatever depth that we go to, we cannot make a direct ascent to the surface. So we have to do what we call stage decompression, and we have to know when to stop at what depth and how long we need to stay there to off-gas that inert gas that we on-gas. And so we have a computer system that tells us, you know, hey, if you go to this depth for this long, it's going to take you this long to surface. So you need to make sure that you're going to be warm enough. You need to make sure that you're going to have enough breathing gas to complete all of those mandatory stops. And so that's why you'll see the pictures of people with multiple cylinders on them, so that they can ensure they have enough breathing gas to safely make it themselves.
Go ahead.
You're up.
When you're in a major project like you were at Smith Lake and you go back 4 different times, how do you mark, or how do you know where you've been and where you need to go when you go back to the second, third, and fourth time?
So there's a couple of different ways we do that. Every time a diver descends in the water column, that location is marked at the surface, GPS. And then when they ascend, that location is marked. And then we can lay that out over a map. We can tell where we've been. In Smith Lake, it was very difficult because of all the standing trees. So what we would do is we would take a reel with line on it, and the diver would descend to the bottom, and then he would tie off to one of the trees, and then we would make a straight line, as straight as we could, and then once we would tie a knot in the line at like 100 feet, right? So the person would swim 100 feet until they got to the knot in their line, and then they would find something to tie off to, and then they would go out only as far as you could see. So sometimes it might be 3 feet, or sometimes it might be 8 or 9 feet, and then you start heading back parallel to your first pass. And so basically there's a grid underwater of line that we actually leave there. And that's how we know where we start and finish, to make sure that we have covered an area completely. Last thing we want to do is say, we came to this area, we looked, the person's not here, and then 3 days later they float right in the middle of our search area. We definitely don't want that. So the sonar image that you guys saw earlier, you can see the person, we call it the cookie cutter image. You could tell legs, arms, head, you can tell this person landed. We can also map out the bottom using that technology and then overlay it over a Google Earth image, and so you can see what the bottom looks like in all of those areas. In Smith Lake, the challenge was that we couldn't tow that sonar unit through the water because it would get hung up in the trees. And so they have a very similar technology sonar unit, but it's one that sits on a tripod, and instead of towing it through the water, it mechanically spins around and it gives you an image of what you're looking at. And so we had to borrow one of those units because we don't have one. And we had to lower it down through the trees, and then it would create an image, and then we would have to pick it up 100 feet to over the top of the trees, move it over 10 or 15 feet, and drop it back down through the trees and take another. And then we can take all of those images and we can mosaic them out so that you can see every image, and then you get a really good idea of what bottom topography is and what's down there. And sometimes we see the actual body laying there, and sometimes we see things that we call anomalies. They look like they don't belong there, and then we have to send a diver down to verify what that actually is. And sometimes it's the person, and sometimes it's some other object.
I know you said that picture, can you pull it back up? You said you can clearly see, you can clearly see.
So sonar imagery is a lot like ultrasound. It's based on the same technology. So if anybody's ever been to the doctor and they've seen an ultrasound image, what is that? I have no idea what I'm looking at.
So with this and that side scan sonar, the bright stuff, what you're seeing, and this is an R2 of right here where you see this cookie cutter. So this is what we call side scan sonar. So the dark image on the left is where that torpedo would be going down. Where you see the bright is the reflection coming back. So imagine there's flashlights coming off of that sonar and it's shining on that body. So what you see on the right side of that body is the shadow, just like this. If you would shine a flashlight on it, there's going to be a shadow. You can't see what's on the other side of the object. So anywhere you see a shadow is something that we can't see. Right? So if the sonar came by here, coming straight down this line in this podium, and someone was sitting on the other side, we would never see them. We see this bright podium, shadow casting back, and whatever's on the other side of the mystery. So this is, as Chris said, the cookie cutter, because you don't have to be trained to understand that's a person. But if we passed that person head on, it would look different. If the body was a little bit sideways, or a little bit contorted, or jammed between a tree, it would all look different. So a good analogy is, you immediately walk in this room, you saw a chair, you knew it was a chair. But if we put that chair underwater and hit it with a sonar, it might be upside down, left, right, looking at it from a weird angle. So for your brain to know what it's looking for and recognize it, say that is a chair, that is what I'm looking at, it's looking at it from the wrong angle. And it's not always the bright part that you're looking for. Sometimes it may be the shadow. I wish we had the camera picture.
I have some better.
We have a great image of in like Saudi Arabia, and people are on campus that you don't know it. They remove the shadows and the way the sun's going, and it looks kind of like lizards or something like that. Yeah, alligators. Like, what do you think this is? And you're like, that looks like a bunch of alligators. And like, okay, then they put the shadow back on, and you can't tell because you're looking straight down the camel, but the shadow of the camel is huge. Like, oh, it's a camel. So it's not actually what you're seeing that told you what it was. It was a shadow of that object that makes you understand what it was. So again, knowing what to look for, and this takes a lot of, and we record all this on our sonar, so we'll play it back, we'll send it to other agencies, and they'll look at it like, hey, you actually know the person, they're right here.
You talked about blow and go. Have either of you ever experienced that yourself personally?
No, Chris has done it for a long time.
So, I did it a few times, not because I ran out of gas, but because I was like, can this be done? Like, is this okay, right? So this was an experiment that was ran, and I had air with me, so if I needed air, I wasn't at risk of breathing in water. But from 100 feet to the surface, you can blow no breathing. The air that's in your lungs is compressed. So as you're coming up through the water column and the pressure is decreasing, then the volume of air is increasing. So it's kind of a weird feeling. As you're ascending, you're just like, still the same. Blowing, blowing, blowing. It should be gone, but it just keeps coming. Just keep having air. It's a weird thing, but it can be done. So it can be done. I don't recommend you going out trying.
No, I'm not right again. Never had to decide that.
Anymore?
What inspires you to do this?
So when as Chris said, I got out of the military, I missed it. I missed the deployments. I missed being part of something bigger than myself. I felt my call was to continue to serve. And I didn't know what that would be. I thought about going back reserves, going down to Eglin, and joining the AFSOC there. But I didn't want to be with my family. I shook hands with them, saying I raised my family. And I've always wanted to scuba dive, but I'm saying to the desert. So when I grew up, I always thought I wanted to be a marine biologist, not really care about marine biology because I like to be underwater. So then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna become a diver. And Chris had just moved down here and opened up a shop. And so I got certified, and he was like, hey, you should come to the unit. And I was like, perfect. Two birds, one stone. I can be around phenomenal divers, and I'll brag on Chris because we'll talk about himself. He is an amazing diver instructor on scuba down West Main, over 5,000 dives and hundreds of recoveries on multiple continents. So all these deep dives and the cool questions you have, don't think that we can all do that. I can. Chris is a breed of a different animal, got a lot of experience. But I was like, hey, this is smart. I can dive with Chris and other people that if you can dive like you follow without any visibility, you could probably go dive in the Caribbean and be just fine. So that was why I did it. Chris, I don't know what got you into public safety diving.
So mine was kind of by accident. I was scuba diving in Lake Mead, and I'm sure you guys have all heard the jokes about Orange Beach, or whatever. And I never thought that it was really true until I was scuba diving one day and there was a body. And so it happened by accident. I was like, oh, I'm out of here, right? I think this is freaky. And so we surfaced and we called authorities, and they sent a dive team from Las Vegas Police Department out, and they did the recovery. I was like, man, so cool. I have to get involved in this. And so it was a very long process to get on the police department's volunteer search and rescue dive team, and that's where it started. It was very different out west. We never had any contact with the family. We didn't know their names, right? We just showed up to a location. We did a grid pattern search. If we found something, great. If we didn't, we just went home. When I moved to Alabama, I didn't know anything about volunteer fire departments or volunteer. I didn't know that people did that. And so I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so when I got involved with the rescue unit, I thought it was going to be the same as it was out west. And it was totally opposite. We were very involved with the family. And honestly, when you are able to find and locate a missing person and get them back to a family member, I don't know what else you could do to get that type of feeling when you're able to do that. So for me, the reward is being able to give somebody something that they can't buy and that not a lot of people can do successfully and eatable over and over. So I just feel like it's what I was put here to do, and so we just did it.
You turned me off. Again, thank you guys for your service. It's pretty amazing. I really had no idea what you guys were going to talk about, so that was amazing. Next week's program will be Lance Griffin, coming with us with a sports update. And I'm sure it's going to be a good update on the Auburn Tiger football team. No worries. I tried. And the next board meeting will be August the 12th. Again, thank you for everybody who helped with the program today. And if we can, let's stand. Four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all? Y'all have a great day.